Hi, it's Nicole with beautifulsoulsmission.org. I want to talk about, are you part of the solution or part of the problem? And as I say this, I am going to explain some things that I've done throughout my life and how I had to course correct some of the choices that I made that were part of the problem, not the solution. With that being said, this is my journey. This is what I went through. I am by no means saying that because I went through this, that this is what you should do. I'm just sharing my words of wisdom with you. So if it hits a chord and you start thinking about something a little bit deeper, maybe it'll help you resolve an issue you have going on. All right, so if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I got pregnant at 19 and had a son. And I had a son by a man who I consciously knew he wasn't going to be the kind of guy that is going to help me really raise a solid foundation in a child, right? I remember distinctively knowing, because I had an appointment to actually not have my son. And this I'll share in a different video. This is where a karmic imprint got kind of overlaid on here. Anyways, but I made the choice to have my son. And I didn't think it was going to be everything that I went through. I mean, not even like a fraction of what I went through. But again, I still have to be responsible for those choices. Now, when things would go wrong and I'd get angry, I was angry that he wasn't helping me with my son. He wasn't financially helping me. He wasn't emotionally, helping. He wasn't showing him the right way of being. All these things. There was this immediate, just anger in me that it was just rageful. It was frustrated and angry. And for whatever reason, whatever was in me that, somewhere along the way, we were told that people are responsible for a certain amount of money, child support, that they're supposed to pay. There was always this call the child support office, which just made me even more frustrated, right? Because he never paid. And when they did find him, he would quit, right? It was all this stuff. I was the one who was so angry about it all. I was bitter and resentful and all this crap. So let's see, it was about 2008. And I just started dating this really amazing man who we connected spiritually and really deep connection. And now there was a turn of events that didn't go the way that we saw going. And he didn't pay child support for 6 months. Now keep in mind, throughout my whole journey, I probably received $2,500 ever from my son's father, right? So when that happened, since he was just about to get off probation, federal probation, they came and got him and said, you didn't pay child support within 6 months, you're being revoked. Now, he had an opportunity to do another year in prison or take 4 years in paper. Crossroads. And he was just really tired of being messed with. So he made a choice, and he chose to do the 1 year. He said, I don't want to be messed with anymore. And then he had a plan to get out and help everybody else, right? So I was like, okay, do it and we'll make it work, whatever's going to happen. Well, he ended up dying while being in solitary confinement after being in there for 30 plus days. That I didn't see coming. And it was right at where I was really starting to wake up. I had just read the book Power of Now. I thought I understood spirituality, right? Not a clue. So needless to say, that just shut me back down. But the interesting thing about Crossroads, right? It was a few months after that, not even. No, did it happen? I don't even think it was, I think it was weeks. I was presented with papers from child support to put my son's father in jail, in prison. Not jail, prison, because he owed me over $40,000 in child support for not paying child support. And all I had to do was sign the papers. It was in my possession and everything. Now, I used to be someone who was so bitter and angry wasn't paying, but in that moment, I just was even if I just couldn't do it. I was like, this is wrong. There's something that is not right about this. No matter how angry I am and how much I know that this man still isn't going to figure things out the way that it's supposed to be, what is my responsibility to what I'm doing, right? Part of the solution, or you're part of the problem? So I never signed the papers. And I just knew, like, this isn't the right way to do things. And I could feel a huge lift and resentment being lifted off me. And that choice opened up. My financial aspect started changing after that. It got shut back down later when I went through the spiritual journey again. But what it did was it opened up a new avenue that the universe presented me with. So interestingly, like, when I was going through my spiritual journey, this was 2017, I believe, that this happened. My son's father started paying child support. And I thought, are you kidding me? I had 17 cents in my bank account at the time. And I just received some child support. It was only like $200, but seriously, when you're down to 17 cents, $200 is like millions. So I was like, you what, right? And all of a sudden I hear Spirit say, write the quartz and tell him you don't want it. And I thought, are you kidding me? No. So I did. I wrote the quartz and I said, I don't want it. And I said, and the reason why I didn't want it was because I realized that this was a fight that was destroying the well-being of myself, the well-being of my son, the well-being of his father, and it was over money. It was over like this. It was an ugliness. It wasn't natural. It was vengeful. It was like, it wasn't. And you know the difference in the energy. Is this loving? Is this not loving? Right? So pay attention if you're in the courts or you're doing something, just to look at your role in these situations. Is this coming from the highest aspect of who you are, or isn't it? So they agreed to wipe out the $44,000 that he owed me. They kept their portion, of course. He still has to pay them, and he's got other kids, so he's going to have to still do that. But on my end, I knew that was the right thing to do. And it was because that was coming from my higher self, not my lower self, my egoic self. It was coming from what I knew to be right. And I'm not saying, he shouldn't have to help financially, right? But it's how we do it. Would I want him just to help financially, coming from like just knowing that this is the right thing to do to help, or coming from that lower energy, right? Because then you're tied to it. You're tied to his lower energy that's giving you the money as well. Just kind of really look at this from an energetic standpoint, the way that I'm saying this. I hope I'm saying this clearly, but it frees you. It frees you emotionally from what we were taught from a system that said this is how it's supposed to be. And then you think, well, what would my God self want from me? And how am I really handling this? Is it coming from the purest place of who I am? Now, there's another part that in my story where my oldest grandson, I had everyone living with me, and I was the mom's legal guardian. I was like everyone, right? And it didn't go the way that I thought. Again, it seems to be the pattern, the way that I thought it was going to go. And there was a time where she was going to move with her sisters to Tennessee. And it was like, no, you can't just up and leave with this child. So I got my son a lawyer, and we took her to court. But as this was happening, I'm getting all this input from my family. You got to fight for this kid, and you got to do this and that. And again, so I'm doing it. And I'm realizing this is yucky energy again, right? And I'm teaching her that this is how you do things, right? She already came from a family that was dysfunctional and not really knowing the right way to be. And I'm contributing still by taking her to this court. Once she even agreed to say, okay, I won't move, I couldn't, no, let's just keep going, right? again, you can't stop. That's the ego that was playing there. So when people kept saying you need to fight and you need to do all this stuff, the first thing you think about is like your instincts to go after and like attack or like do something. But what if you need to fight for this person means you need to forgive and you need to love to heal these wounds that are created, right? Versus the opposite. And that's what ended up transpiring down the road, where I had to shift, I had to heal what I contributed to, my role in the dysfunction of what was happening there. I had to apologize and say, please forgive me. Like that was the wrong way to do things. I think that we can handle things without the courts involved. I think we can handle things from like such a higher viewpoint than the way that we're doing it. And to really let her know, excuse me, to really let her know that I am sorry and I showed you something that was wrong. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I showed her something that was wrong. Apparently, I had something else that had to come up and come out. Just to show her that I'm human, just like you. And I'm going to make mistakes, just like she's going to make mistakes. But I still love her. And she does love me. And she forgave me. There might be a little bit more work there. But she knows that it's genuine. Even if she wants to come at me crazy, I still send love to her, right? Because I know that that's just like the wounded child that's in her. And it's not really who she is, right? Like, just like if when I was going through the craziness, that was like this wounded, confused person in me. And that wasn't who I really was, right? And it took for this spiritual journey, which wasn't easy, for me to come into who I really am, which is that loving, compassionate being. That person who's going to do things in a right way, even if a society has told us that that was the right way. I started listening to my God self and my higher self saying, wait, that's not. I was just taught that from somewhere and I can undo it and I can correct it. So there are going to be these multiple times in your life where you thought that you were doing things right and you get the opportunity to correct it. So just start examining your life from like a different point of view and see where the energy in your body feels so heavy. And is it because you're not willing to let go of, some old programming, some old ways of being that is keeping you stuck in those energies? Like we're all ascending. We understand that. We're trying to go to the higher realms. But in order to go to the higher realms, you can't take this lower energy with you. To anchor heaven on earth, that heavy, dense energy, it's gotta go. And you're the only person who can let that go. It's a choice between you and you. And again, this is just my journey. These are some things that I've been through, and these are some ways that I started mending and course correcting my choices and how it's freed me so I feel better and I can have better relationships with everyone around me. So my name's Nicole, beautifulsoulsmission.org. I hope that this inspires you in some sort of way to look at your life and maybe do some things a bit different. All right, thanks for watching.